All right, everyone, welcome back into the Buttered Popcorn Podcast. Alongside me, my new co-host, Dan, also known as Real Talk.
How's it going,
Welcome
guys?
back, brother.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Well, and welcome permanently, too.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. How
Yeah,
you
we got a
feeling
lot
about
of lot of stuff to cover. A lot of stuff to cover today and in the future. So
Yeah, it's the nice thing about movies is, like, it's a never-ending topic.
yeah, yeah. There's always gonna be something new, good or bad. So keeps you engaged.
All right, well, before we kick into our movie list today, how you feeling about the Eagles Sunday versus the Patriots?
Feel great. I think the offense doesn't scare me too much. I like Ramondre Stevenson. I like their tight ends. They have Hunter Henry. So like I think they might be able to dink and dunk a little bit. It is a good defense. So I think it'll be good to see the offense get a test, but I'm not too worried about that. Mac Jones, I think, is not a good quarterback, so
Yeah.
I think we'll be all right. What about you guys?
I mean, like you said, the defense is a little worrisome because we got the Steelers, but
Yeah,
I'm not. Kenny Pickett doesn't threaten me.
yeah,
And
yeah. I think they'll be okay eventually, Steelers, but this year not the best. But I think they have an okay future.
yeah, I have a hot take, and I think Mike Tomlin is a slightly overrated coach.
Yeah, I think his players like him, and that keeps him in his job. I think he's a good like relationships guy, but I feel like he does make some mistakes in terms of game management and stuff like that. So
He's a
yeah, I
great
could see that.
regular season coach, but dude, he's had some rosters that should have been in the Super Bowl many times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a good take.
All right, anyway, let's kick it off. So today we're doing our Christopher Nolan ranking.
Hmm.
So I actually just watched Insomnia for the first time, and then earlier this year I've also watched Dunkirk, Memento, Prestige, and Inception all for the first time.
You hadn't seen Inception yet?
I had not.
That's wild. Yeah, I feel like that theater experience was so cool. Like I really enjoyed that. I haven't. It's not one that I've watched too many times since. I feel like I watch it maybe like once a year or so, and just kind of refresh my memory because it is great. But the theater experience is crazy. I love that.
I believe it. I think next year Nolan's going to re-release all of his movies in theaters. I think I heard a rumor
Really,
about that. Yeah.
I mean that's going to make a whole lot of money. I think it's a great idea.
I mean, I think the most notable ones would be Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, and Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Another one I feel in terms of just theater impact. I think Dunkirk was a really cool theater experience, and like
I also just thought
given
of that.
yeah, given how like bare bones the movie kind of is, like it made a difference in terms of the sound and um, just some of like the beauty of how it looks. Like it really pops on the screen. So I like that experience as well. But yeah, everything else you mentioned is gonna do really well too. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we want to kick us off with your number 12.
yeah. So in dead last, I don't think this is the hottest take, but I know some people like it. I have Tenet. Um,
Wow.
I Yeah, this is a movie that really bothered me in a lot of ways. I saw it in the theater, which I think, in and of itself, it was an interesting experience seeing it in the theater. There were some really cool moments technically, visually, and in terms of the sound. I know Nolan likes to play with time so much, and that's kind of throughout all of his movies. He's always kind of dealt with that, but to me, he took it a little too far here. I think um, the time inversion stuff was cool to look at a lot of the times, but I don't think it really played that well in terms of making a cohesive story. I think the movie bit off a little bit more than it could chew. Um, I like that it was clearly very like Bond inspired. I like that kind of I like that world. I like that genre, but I think he just got a little too into himself in terms of like trying to make a big mind blowing story. And even in the movie, you see, you know, there's a character asking a question about it, and the scientist kind of goes like, like don't think about it too much. And I feel like that's kind of directed at the audience. But if you're gonna do that, like I want to think about it, I want to understand the story. I don't just want to stare at it and be like, oh, that's cool. Um, so yeah, and then I think he has some great characters in a lot of other movies, and The main character here literally being named protagonist. You don't know much about him, and you're taking a good actor and putting him in that position and not giving him too much to do. I liked Robert Pattinson a lot, but yeah, this it just kind of missed for me, and I feel like there's so much exposition, but with all of the noise in the background and the sound mixing being how it was, you couldn't really hear a lot of the exposition a lot of the time, which to me was frustrating because, like, again, I'm
That
someone who really wants to understand the plot, so I think I might have thought a little bit too much about it, and I might go try to go back and watch it without having that
I,
mindset.
I was
So
gonna ask, how many times have you seen it?
I think I've seen it through. Well, I want to say I've seen it 3 times.
Oh,
So
okay. Because for me, when I saw it the first time, it was like probably second last on this list, and then now it's moved up. We'll get to that later, obviously, but
okay,
I
yeah.
don't know.
So
I really enjoyed it on rewatch and
yeah,
rewatching.
I respect it. I think it falls into it's generally unsatisfying to me in like a lot of things that I look for in movies. So I think it just kind of I'm not like, oh, it's garbage, but I'm saying it doesn't necessarily like, connect with me. But I think I will try to watch it more and get another perspective because I think that's fun to do with a lot of movies. So that's my dead last spot there.
I get that. And then we're mixing it
Um,
up this week, so he's just going to go through all of his 12, and then I'll do all of my 12, so we aren't overlapping and continuing thoughts too many times.
yeah, so I'll jump right into my next spot, and it's The Dark Knight Rises. Um, this is one I think some people like a bit more. Um, I when I watch this movie, I feel like I'm watching a movie that changed directions a few times, which it did. I mean, originally we were supposed to have Heath Ledger coming back as the Joker. I would have loved, everyone would have loved to see, what they would have been able to do with that. Sadly, lost Heath, and they had to pivot and kind of create this new story without him. So I think that comes across. I think it feels a bit long sometimes. Some parts of it have really good action and are really engaging, but other bits kind of just drag out for me personally, especially in the middle. Um, Also, the character of Talia al Ghul, I just
Horrible.
didn't really, yeah, and like I think
Horrible.
she's a good actor too, and that was just like very strange to me. That was not a good performance, and her dynamic with Bane was strange, not really believable. I love Tom Hardy. I think Bane is a great villain, and I think his take was interesting to me, but not really enough to kind of save this movie. And I think, um, especially coming after The Dark Knight, it's just a matter of I think I had a matter of it's kind of a matter of expectations. So like you had that high bar set, and then this was the follow up, and it just didn't hit on a lot of the same levels. And even I think Batman Begins is slightly superior. So it just was kind of a letdown for me. I still like watching this take on Batman. I liked Anne Hathaway as Catwoman.
I
There are good
also did.
elements, but yeah, good elements, but not quite enough for me.
I will say though, Bane might be the most quotable villain from any comic book movie ever.
Yeah, he was. I feel like Tom Hardy was having a lot of fun. I think he enjoyed
I
it, and
totally agree.
that shows. And I like seeing that. And it's kind of the opposite of the Talia al Ghul character. She looked like she kind of didn't want to be there. I think it was Marion Cotillard, but yeah, and also just like another thing that irked me was the way his death was just so stupid, and so like flippant. I just didn't really understand the way that was executed. That's just another thing that bothered me. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on that movie in general.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And were you mentioning Bane's death or Batman's?
Bane's death.
Okay, because I was like, Batman didn't die. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure you remembered that part.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, Bane's death. He's just kind of gone. And it's like, all right, that was just kind of weird to me. But
Well, and
actually,
I'll mention this right now too. Talia's death might be one of the worst deaths in cinematic history.
yeah, in terms of like the performance,
I've seen my dog act better. Like
yeah,
it was
it was bad.
horrible.
It was not good. Yeah, and that's
And
like I feel like that's kind of acting 101 stuff. I don't. I'm not an actor, but that was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I feel like there's people at my local college that could act a little better than that in their play.
Yeah, it was not great. Can I hop into my next movie?
Yeah,
Cool,
hit
because
it.
it's directly related. It's Batman Begins. Um,
Okay.
and this is a movie. I will say this is where it jumps into movies that I like would say I really enjoy. Like I like this movie. Anytime it's on, I'll definitely watch it. I think it's a great introduction to the character. I love Christian Bale's Batman. Again, he seems passionate about playing the character. He seems like he really enjoys it and has respect for the role. So I think that shows. I love Liam Neeson. So I also think um, Raj Al Ghul is a really really cool character, and getting to see his portrayal was really good. And I like how they made it feel so like real world and grounded and gritty. It felt like an actual actual human beings you were watching in a believable story. So that
Yeah,
is
and
something that
this is arguably the second darkest Batman we've ever seen. Kind of like with the end fight scene, how they poison all of Gotham. Like it's the darkest is probably Batman Forever.
yeah, and I would say the new one as well, like the Batman with
Yeah,
Robert Pattinson is
dude, I
because
love
they I
Robert
mean
Pattinson. Batman.
yeah, but at the end of the day, like he doesn't win in that movie. Like it ends awfully, and he just kind of has to deal with it. But um, yeah, this is pretty dark and pretty real. I think there were in terms of criticisms, the villain, like the whole Scarecrow element, like is fine. He's another character that I think is really cool. Obviously, I love Killian Murphy, but I think this is one of the weaker things he's done. I don't think it's that interesting of a character in terms of how it's portrayed here. I think that's one that's kind of difficult to pull off that real world feel and have it be engaging. So yeah, I think that's where it kind of lagged behind with me. I don't really like Katie Holmes that much in terms of her performance here, um, and I also think the whole like microwave emitter storyline seems a little like convoluted, and you can poke some holes in it. But
Yeah,
it was fun. I mean, I get it. So yeah, not my favorite, but a movie I enjoy. And again, I said this is kind of where on my list. I like all these movies. So
I was gonna say it's
um,
exactly on my list where it starts, where I really enjoy them.
yeah, so not a miss by any stretch, and a really good job. Um, and also, it's a huge task taking on this character and introducing him in a way that felt fresh and enjoyable. So that was really impressive.
Especially with Nolan's style, where he just likes to destroy cities and stuff when he films.
Yeah, yeah, he goes big. Um, and then going into my next movie, one of the reasons I enjoy this is he did the exact opposite, and it's following. Um, this is one that took me a good amount of time to watch. I think I watched it like 2 years ago or so. Um, I'd heard kind of mixed things about it, but I think it's always interesting to see how a director gets their start. Um, and just kind of you can see like hints of the themes they enjoy or hints of their style kind of creeping in. Even though this movie's like just over an hour, it's black and white. You can feel that it's him. You might not know. We might not know if we didn't have that information going in, but being aware of it, you can tell. Like you see his imprint kind of on the movie, and I like it. I like seeing super low budget stuff that's like done really well and really effectively. Like that's something that a lot of filmmakers kind of could make with a really small budget if they had the right that amount of skill. So I like it. It's a little um, quirky and a little weird, but I think it's a fun, like unique short story, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. I'll say.
That's a fair take.
I think areas that it lags. Obviously, you're not getting like primo acting here.
Yeah, well,
But
I think it's like the second lead guy, like the one he robs the
yeah,
apartment with in the beginning. I think that's the only thing he's ever acted in. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and I thought he wasn't. terrible. I mean, I don't even think they're bad performances. I think they're just kind of raw. But I like
Yeah,
this
and
movie
it's a
for
like first script for Nolan, so it's
yeah, but it I admire what it's trying to do, and I admire it for being his first movie, and I enjoyed it, like I said, a lot more than I thought I would. So um, kind of have it here out of respect and appreciation. So um,
that's fair.
I'll jump into my next. I guess this is my eighth film, and it's Insomnia. I'm not a big Al Pacino fan. I'm not a hater by any means, but he's not someone that I tend to seek out in movies. I feel like I'm not usually drawn to his performances generally. So this was a pleasant surprise to me, and seeing Robin Williams in this role uh, was was wild to me. He's just so kind of disgusting and awful, and seeing him as that villain was really really cool. I like kind of all the movie just feels so uncertain, and just the setting of all the fog, all the lack of sleep, like it creates this kind of sense of just having no idea what's going on, and you feel that right along with Pacino. So I think it kind of makes for an experience that's unique and really held my attention the whole time, basically.
Yeah, I just finished watching this movie like 2 hours ago. One of the things
Okay.
I think I like about it is if you just read the cast lineup for this movie, is you would think like, oh, Pacino will probably be the antagonist, Robin Williams will be the good guy.
Yeah.
So I like that Nolan kind of flipped that switch.
Yeah, and this movie kind of like whether it be morally or with the performances or kind of your expectations, it like flips everything on its head. And this feels to me, this feels a bit different than a lot of these other movies. Like it has kind of a different feel. Um, it might be less like ambitious in terms of the scale of what it was trying to do, but like I don't that doesn't bother me. Like I like contained stories. The same reason I enjoyed following kind of. So Um, I think the plot towards the end gets a little predictable and kind of run of the mill, but um, a lot of the buildup is so strong. I think it kind of saves it, and it also it's a nice movie to look at. I mean, being set in Alaska, like it's really really kind of a beautiful backdrop for the movie, so that kind of enhances it as well. So it's one I definitely enjoy.
Yeah, kind of like
And
what you said. I think the first hour and a half is very strong. I think it's
yeah,
the last 28 minutes where it kind of loses some of it.
yeah, which I mean that happens to so many movies. But a lot of his movies are able to finish really strong. So yeah, it's kind of in this middle sort of ground, but again, one that I enjoy. Um, but yeah, I'll jump into my next one. This is my seventh spot. At seven, I have Interstellar. Um, I know this is one that a lot of people really, really love. I'm again not saying it's bad. I think it's incredible to look at, and I think Matthew McConaughey is ridiculous here. Um,
It might be his best performance.
it's probably close, yeah. In terms of just like also I try to think about performances sometimes in like the weight, like the amount of weight that they carry in terms of making a movie good or watchable, and there's so much of that here. He's responsible for a lot of the quality of this, I think, and with a poorer actor, this could have been pretty stupid in a lot of ways. Uh, so I think the story is cool from a kind of general standpoint. I like that again. It kind of feels real, like it feels like a potential real future, which I always think makes a movie feel more engaging. So I like that. I think it gets a little too um, kind of similar to what I said with Tenet. I think it gets a little too into itself. Kind of goes a bit too into um, the science, like theoretical science, the jargon, stuff that like we don't really understand. Nolan doesn't actually truly understand, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I think it kind of like gets a bit too far into that, which can be cool in certain amounts, but I think just lost me a little bit, um, and made it feel like sometimes it was dragging. But again, I think McConaughey's performance, all the emotional aspects of it, everything with the father daughter relationship, like that stuff is really powerful. I think some people feel like it can get a little melodramatic, but uh, I appreciate emotion like in movies. That's one of the main reasons I watch movies is like for the emotional aspect. That's what I tend to enjoy. So
I
I
think
kind of
you
have it
have
right.
in that regard. I think that's why we
Yeah,
both love Good Will Hunting so much.
yeah. I mean, you look for stuff in movies that you can relate to, or that feelings you can understand. So I think that's sometimes the difference between appreciating a movie and not. It can kind of just be in that. So yeah, not bad, but just not one of my favorites. And then I think at this point, there's another kind of step up for me, and I have Dunkirk. So again, this is a movie I saw in the theater. This is one of my favorite theater experiences I've ever had. Um, I just I think this movie got screwed over a little bit because people were thinking they were getting something else. They didn't, I don't think, understand what they were getting, and when they kind of got that realization of, oh, this isn't just like a straight up, shoot 'em up war movie, kind of walking you through the story on the ground or in the air or whatever. They were kind of disappointed, and then they said, "Oh, it's boring. Oh, it's this and that." But like, I haven't seen anything else like this in my life. Like, I don't need to see another. Go
I
ahead.
thought people think. I think people thought they were getting 1917
Yeah, yeah,
because
which
that movie is
is
held in a very high regard, and this one always gets like hated on.
yeah, and like I love 1917 too. But like again, I can view them each in a different light and appreciate both for like being something different. And like that doesn't make one of them bad or one of them good. But
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, this was just so unique. The sound design was crazy. I like the way all the timelines kind of came together. I like the performances, even though there's not a lot of dialogue. You can do so much acting with your facial expressions, with your demeanor, with you know all these other nonverbal aspects of acting that are super important. And a
Like
lot
I
of the
say, it
best
might be
actors.
a top five Killian performance.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult to like kind of think about that, but yeah, wait, that, that's something I have to kind of lay out and think about for sure.
Right now,
Um,
I'm thinking probably like Tommy Shelby, Oppenheimer, maybe Dunkirk.
have you seen Have you ever seen Sunshine?
No, I have not, but it's on my watch list.
It's really really cool. Um,
Okay.
that's that's one I enjoy. But I mean, he's just a really talented dude. And like I said, I feel like we talked about this before, but he's one of those actors that like with his face and like with his expressions can like portray so much like emotion and whatnot. So um, yeah, I think he's really great. Um, but yeah, so like I said, this to me I think is better than it is to a lot of people. But I understand that some people feel like it's boring or not that interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed this movie. You'll see where I have it in my ranking.
Yeah. Um,
Are we kicking off your top five now?
yeah, this is my top five. So at five, I have Inception. I think this is one that I really like, but lags behind kind of the movies above it in terms of kind of like emotional impact for me. I think it was more of kind of like a big spectacle that was really cool to look at. Obviously, there was stuff being done visually here that we hadn't really seen before. Um, DiCaprio is really good. I kind of really like that whole team. But I think the story again, it's one you can kind of poke holes in if you really, really think about it. And while there is kind of a big emotional focus on like Leo's character and kind of fleshing him out, I think I also once again don't really love. I think this is Marion Cotillard too, right? Playing Maul, like his wife. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think it's yes. I think it's the same actor. And I also think outside of not loving her performance in Dark Knight Rises, like I think I just don't like her that much as an actor. Like I think she has some good performances, but something about her just I can't really put my finger on it. But she's not my favorite, so I think she just kind of bothers me in this sometimes. And I don't know. It just that whole kind of storyline. I feel like could have been developed more. The storyline could have been developed more. And it sometimes falls into the same boat as Tenet with just so much exposition. I think this just does it way better and explains the story better. I think it kind of cares about the audience more in that way in terms of like making sure you're understanding what's going on. I think that makes you appreciate what you're seeing in a better. So um, it's one I really like, but not in my top 3 or 4 here. So
Yeah. No, I
um,
agree with everything you said. I got some details I'm going to throw in here in a little bit. Don't worry.
okay, cool. Yeah,
You know me and the small details in movies.
yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, so I'll jump into my top 4 now, and at 4 I have Memento. This is another one. It took me a good bit to actually watch, but and I had heard a ton about it. I feel like I kind of go into a lot of movies like that, like a lot of big movies I haven't seen. I feel like I've heard so much about, read so much about, so I think that kind of like can taint your opinion going into it. But um, I also think sometimes you can have too high expectations. But this one I really loved. I'm also not a huge Guy Pearce fan, but this performance to me is really really cool. Um, I think for some people, it can feel kind of difficult to follow, obviously, and also feel a little bit like detached because there isn't like you feel for the guy, but there isn't like that much emotional investment in a lot of the stories. It's kind of like unfolding this like technical sequence of what happened. Um, but I think the twist is really really cool. The take on memory and time and kind of all of his things that he cares about are kind of combined into one in this movie, and that's really cool to see. They're clearly concepts that are very important to him, and I like how they're explored here. And I think with poor execution, this could have been a pretty rough watch, but it ties together really well. It's pretty clean, and again, there are people that have some issues with little bits and pieces here, but like when you're making something this crazy,
Complex.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like you do a better job. Like so,
Well,
um,
I'm pretty sure I remember reading this about this movie, but I think he filmed every scene or like the entire movie like backwards. So he started with like the final scene, filmed it all the way to the beginning, and then just cut and pieced where he wanted
yeah,
things.
which makes sense in terms of like the narrative itself. Like I feel like that probably helped him keep or helped them all keep things straight in their own heads and like understand the story better. So that's really interesting. So that's my 4. I really like it.
So who do you
The only
think
thing I
killed? Who do you think killed his wife? Or do you think he's the guy that he talks about in like the
yeah,
men?
yes,
You think he's him?
yes, yeah. I feel like um, I kind of really like the whole twist. I will say like my problem with movies like this is sometimes once you watch them, like this doesn't have the same impact on even the second viewing.
Really?
Um,
I think it does still.
yeah, just because like I feel like once I it's kind of like you're putting together a puzzle. So like the first time you get a puzzle, you put it together, it takes you time, you're thinking about it, but like once you have that puzzle made, like do you really want to take it apart and then put it back together again? Like I don't know, I've seen the puzzle. So I think I like can appreciate it so much for what it is, but I don't think it has the same rewatchability as even just the next 3 movies, for example, or even something like Insomnia. I don't know. So that's just kind of my own opinion, but I know other people could definitely feel differently.
I get it. I understand, but like, do you feel the same about Inception? Like, you don't think it has the same value?
I don't I don't find myself having like a burning desire to watch Inception that much. I don't know if I said I think I said this, but feel like I watch it maybe like once a year, um, and I like it, but I don't know. I think this kind of goes into a bigger conversation of a lot of people have an issue with his movies, saying they're kind of like gimmicky, or they just rely on like one big concept or like one big twist or one moment, and like once you've seen that, you've kind of seen the whole thing. I don't believe that. Um, but I feel like when you are going for that kind of style, you can leave a lot of people feeling that way. So I guess that makes some of them feel a little less rewatchable to me, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love rewatching movies like that because one, my memory's not all that great,
Okay.
but two, like I think it's like what made me appreciate Tenet maybe more than you appreciated it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you know that's a perspective I can appreciate. And like I said, I kind of want to try to take on a different mindset and like rewatch maybe some of these or some other movies that I haven't liked as much, and try to see if I can feel differently.
Dude, I have such a hard time deciding if I should like rewatch movies sometimes or if I should just like keep watching new movies I haven't seen because it like offers better content if I
Yeah,
continue or like when I decide to post.
yeah, yeah. Right now, I feel like I'm trying to watch as much new stuff as I can because I feel like I've spent a lot of time rewatching stuff I like throughout my life. And that's why I feel like a lot of the movies I love, I like really love them because I know them kind of inside and out. But I feel like I'm
Uh,
trying to like expose myself to different stuff, and take in as much as I can, like as many directors as I can, kind of get some different styles and whatnot in my head. So
Right now, I'm going down like this last week. I've been watching the entire X-Men franchise because I've never seen one.
really,
So, yeah,
there's some great movies and some absolute garbage in there, but
well,
there's some
dude, I was gonna
there's
say
some
up until I got to first class, they were all pretty mediocre to bad.
yeah. Have you watched Days of Future Past yet?
That's the last one I finished.
Okay, I really like that movie.
Yeah. I
I
don't
think
know
that's
why
such
I
a
went
cool.
into that movie with a very bad mindset because I thought I heard bad things about it on Movie Talk, and then I like looked it up and it has great ratings. I realized
Yeah,
it was I think it's like Ronin or something or Origins, something like that.
yeah. Like X-Men Origins Wolverine is bad.
That was
Um,
horrible because I'm
yeah,
watching
and
them in
then
release order, not timeline order.
okay, okay, got you. Um, yeah, it's such a mixed bag, which is a shame because like there's so many great characters to work with there. Um, I'm hoping like when they get rebooted, like there's good casting decisions and good direction and everything, because those like that team is really worth um, great movies. So
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. And I'm kind of doing it to prepare for Deadpool 3 next year because like I've seen
yeah,
all these like confirmations of people that are going to be in it, so I'm like, I need to get through this.
yeah, that's I really hope they don't screw that up, because like I think sometimes you can risk um, just trying to do too much. And I mean, I like Deadpool 2 a lot, but I think there was a decline, and I'm just hoping there isn't another one. But I'm trying to be optimistic. It should be good, but you never know.
I'm worried just because of Disney. They still say it's going to be rated R, but I think it's going to be Disney R. It's not going to be a true R. The
Yeah,
mouse.
yeah. Do you know when that is that? Do you know when that comes out? Like when during the year? That's next year.
I think it's slated for May. It's May or
Okay,
March.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's gonna come up quick, but I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll
It
see if
should
the
be
writer
fun.
strike affects that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll jump back to. I know we were talking about like rewatchability and all that, but my three is crazy rewatchable, and it's Dark Knight. So like there isn't. You don't have to say too much here. Everyone kind of knows about this one, but um, it's really good. I guess I might throw out a couple negatives just to have something to say. I feel like if I could change anything about this movie, it would be the way all the kind of Harvey Rachel stuff. I think feels a little bit weak. I think I like Harvey Dent's character, and I think Two Face is really interesting, but I don't think the execution was that good here. I felt like that aspect was a little bit rushed, and just didn't quite feel as interesting as the rest of the movie. Um, so I think that
Yeah,
that's
it can also get overshadowed though by Heath Ledger, obviously.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You kind of forget about it and just like are like whatever. Um, but not it's not my not the strongest version of Two Face there for sure. But it's an incredible movie. Um, Heath Ledger just kind of takes it to a different place. So it's one I'll never really get tired of rewatching.
Oh, absolutely. It might be the
And
most rewatchable of all the Batmans.
yeah, yeah. I mean, are you talking Nolan Batman or are you talking all time
I'm
Batman?
talking all Batmans.
Yeah, I think the one of the only like a Batman. I love the 1989 Keaton Batman with Jim Carrey and
You
Tommy Lee
love that one?
Jones. Yeah, I love that movie, and I've always loved that movie. Um, I think it's so campy and so ridiculous, but Jack Nicholson, his Joker, I love a lot. And the way he kind of interacts with Carrie's Riddler, I think is really entertaining. And apparently, they like hated each other in real life, and it kind of shows. So,
That's my third lowest rated Batman.
are you serious? I
Yeah.
love that movie. I love that movie so much.
Well,
Um,
I shouldn't say that because I haven't seen the like what is it, 68 or 69 Batman. So that one's unranked. But yeah, Batman Forever is my second lowest ranked of everything I've seen, like just above Batman and Robin. Well, I shouldn't say just above. It's a big jump, but
yeah, I don't know. I have a weak spot for. I really like Michael Keaton.
oh,
Um, but yeah, so that's my uh, that's my three, and then my two is The Prestige. Um,
this
this
movie's so
is
overshadowed.
wait, what'd you say?
It's so overshadowed by the rest of his filmography.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people forget about it, but it does have a lot of really big fans, so it's like an interesting kind of mix there. But like this movie to me, I feel like is just so much fun. Like it's such an experience to watch. I'm a big I'm a big fan of history, and all the stuff with Tesla to me is so cool. And just the performances between the back and forth between Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman is really entertaining. I like their dynamic a lot. Um, I like you can kind of feel Nolan's like slow build up and progression to uh, the big twist and that kind of reveal. But to me, this is one of the like all time reveals, and it's just overwhelmingly fun watch to me. Um, and again, this is one that these three at the top, I feel like I can rewatch a ton. So um, yeah,
Yeah, right
I
there
haven't
with
heard
you.
too many people like talk really negatively about this, but some people just seem to be kind of meh on it. So
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people have this in like the lower portion of their Nolan rankings too.
yeah, yeah, I don't get it. I feel like it's maybe just something that you know either connects with you or doesn't. I don't know if it's the whole like magic aspect and all that. Like some people think it's like tacky or I just don't. I think it's a lot of fun.
It might be the
And
best magic movie I've ever seen.
yeah, I feel like
Not
it's a
that there's
story
like
that
a big, catalog of them, but
yeah. Have you seen? I know it gets talked about a lot in terms of like twin movies and stuff, but have you seen The Illusionist with Edward Norton?
no, I think I
So
rented that on YouTube, so I'm watching that tonight.
okay, yeah, it came out like 2 months. I think like 2 months before, and it's a good, interesting movie. Especially if you like Edward Norton, like
Yeah,
it's
well,
really really
I
yeah
got in the mood to like see a new Norton movie that I haven't seen after putting together that Fight Club video I sent you.
yeah.
And so I was between that and American History X, so I'll probably watch that later on this weekend.
That's like an all that's like again, I haven't put together like my all time list, but American History X is probably in my top 15 or so. I think that's an incredible movie that I really love, and I think Edward Norton. I don't believe has ever won an Oscar, which is like fairly wild to me because I think he's really really talented. But I hope eventually he does.
Well, it's funny because I feel like people from my generation just know him from The Incredible Hulk and won't dive into like anything else.
Yeah, yeah, he's really really good. But yeah, so this is my number two, and then obviously, yeah, this was my one for a long time, and then this year, or Oppenheimer came out, and I feel
So
like
that's mine.
it kind of just blows away, like no pun intended, everything else. And not because any of these movies are poor, but it's that special. I don't really think there's anything you can say in terms of a negative. I think the one thing I thought about a bit was I think the last 45 minutes or so, in terms of kind of the political fallout and all of the hearings and whatnot, and the stuff that focused on Downey Jr.'s character, like I almost feel like that could have been made into its own movie, but at the same time, I don't think that's a movie that many people would really go to see, but it's still a really important story. So I felt like it had to be a part of this to kind of give the complete narrative and tell the story. But um, it felt a little kind of like smushed together and rushed to get it all in. But I still enjoyed it and I still found it interesting. And seeing him kind of get what he had coming was enjoyable. So yeah, I mean, I've heard obviously everyone's heard so much about this. I think some of the criticisms I've seen have kind of painted this as a movie that was kind of pro like military industrial complex and war and like the United States. Like when I hear people say all that, I kind of am confused and I wonder like if they watched it or just kind of what their mindset is because I feel like this paints the military in an incredibly poor light. Um,
Yeah,
I
I
guess
don't feel that way at all. Like, if anything, like
which
it
way?
showed how bad psychologically this affected Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
And he didn't even drop it.
yeah, and I feel like it shows like the kind of the coldness and more so um, curiosity about it that the government had. Like they really just had the mindset of like, what is this going to do? What are the effects? How will this affect our standing and like kind of the rungs of global power? Like it was more about sending a message to the world and I guess Russia specifically that hey, we can do this, we will do this. There was no emotion towards um, the impact of the bomb on Japan, etc., which Oppenheimer obviously had in his mind. So um, yeah, I saw a lot of that online and I found it fairly confusing. So I feel like the movie did a pretty good job at painting everything kind of down the middle and letting you see what happened and decide for yourself. And I think it also encourages people to look into it on their own and do their own research. It's not necessarily telling you how to feel, but it does not paint the U.S. government in a good light, or Truman, or anyone really in the military. So,
No, not maybe Matt Damon. Like he didn't
yeah,
really do anything wrong. Like
he was
his
just kind of
character.
doing his job. Like I felt like he was, a career military guy that was doing his job. He was trying to keep things moving. Um, very much in the middle, not necessarily painted in a bad light, not necessarily painted in a great light, just a guy doing his job. So
Yeah,
the performances are like really
unbelievable.
crazy. Yeah, and it's a movie. I mean, I could talk about this for longer than anyone wants to hear, but I really loved it. And it's easily my one here.
Yeah, I like that spot. All right, so my 12 is following, but I
Okay.
will say I haven't seen it in like 3 years. So upon rewatch, it could definitely move up because I remember there's a lot of aspects I did enjoy about it from memory, but I also think it's lacking a lot of areas. Like so I think the script falls flat a lot, or can like get a little boring in spots. But like you can definitely see all of the hints of Christopher Nolan everywhere throughout this movie.
Yeah.
So I won't go too deep in it, just since I don't remember too much.
Yeah.
And then my number 11, Dark Knight Rises, same as you.
Thank God. I was. A lot of people really like this movie. Like it has like a following for sure. That people that really like it.
I mean, I don't know if I would completely turn it off. Like if it was on, like I still enjoy bits and pieces here and
Yeah.
there, but it's
Yeah.
not good. I know that for a fact. Like I almost stitched over your TikTok where you're like, "What's a bad movie that you still enjoy?" Like I almost put Dark Knight Rises, and I don't
Yeah.
know why I like it, but I do. But I know it's horrible, so that's why it's in my 11. But
That's fair.
I absolutely love the scene where he's in the prison and he has to like try and jump from rock to rock to get out of the cell.
Hmm. Yeah,
I think
that's
that
a
was
great
very well.
Batman moment. Like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, but I think that's like the highlight of this movie. Like all the fight scenes are horrible, like
Yeah.
and just poorly choreographed, and there's a lot just not believable. And again, Talia al Ghul's death just drags this movie down so far for me.
Yeah, it's not strong. And there's a lot of stuff where you just kind of shake your head in this movie. It's just like, all right, this is just kind of dumb. But again, has its fans for sure.
Yeah, and I actually like Joseph Gordon-Levitt a lot. I don't know if I
Yeah,
would have liked him as Robin.
it it just seemed like kind of an unnecessary afterthought. Like, oh yeah, like let's do this and see if like almost maybe listen and see if people are into it or not, and then you can kind of run with it. I don't know. It just felt unnecessary, but I am a fan of his. I do like
Yeah, like I like him in a lot of other movies. It was just, and he wasn't bad in this by any means. I also think it was weird that they threw the Steelers in.
him. Yeah, this movie just has a lot of like bizarre little moments where you're just like, okay, like I don't know, like almost funny like things that happen, but yeah,
And my thought was like, if Nolan didn't take the time to pay, Ben Roethlisberger, Heinz Ward, how many other guys, just to be there for 5 minutes of the movie, could he have used that budget to, maybe make something better? Like you could have just hired you and I to play a football team, like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just stand
That's
there.
a great point, and it makes you wonder like what did they get paid for that? Because I mean, it was probably something decent. So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be looking that up later. But yeah, my number 10 is Batman Begins. Um,
Right
again,
in line.
I think one of my biggest issues though is I don't like how they changed Rachel's character or actress, not character. I mean, I think Maggie Gyllenhaal did fine in Dark Knight, and that I understand why they changed actors, but actresses, Jesus. But I don't know. That's one of the things I don't like about the Dark Knight trilogy. I will say.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I think if I like, I think I like Katie Holmes a little better, I guess.
I do too, which is why I'm
Yeah,
bringing this up. Like, I thought
yeah,
she did a
that's a
fantastic job.
yeah. I think that's very fair.
Yeah, Liam Neeson's was like role was very cool, and also I actually think I saw Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises before I ever saw Begins.
Okay,
And so like in Dark Knight Rises, I never understood why Liam Neeson was just there.
okay,
So this
that's
actually
fair.
like pieced things together for him. But like you, I liked him as Ra's al Ghul. There's a lot of people that didn't. I know that. I think the CGI didn't age too great with this movie though. Like with the poison scene at the end and everything, and the train fight.
It's not the strongest ending, but
It
I
also
like a lot of what leads up to it. Like I think it's a lot of that stuff's interesting, and then I'm just kind of like, all right,
Yeah, and like it also might have helped if Nolan was like the director he was today at that point in time because he might have gotten a better budget for that.
hmm yeah, for sure,
Yeah, I still like his direction with where he went in this and everything.
yeah,
And this is where you're going to start seeing you're on my list has a lot of similarities in
okay,
rankings
all
because
right, let's hear it.
my number nine's Insomnia.
Okay,
So I watched, like I said, watched that literally this morning. um, I really liked Robin Williams in this because his performance almost made you like the villain at multiple points.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I mean, that's his gift. Like, he's just so, like, charismatic and just, it's Robin Williams. Like, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Dude, this is a sad fact about me, but my Robin Williams like movie knowledge is not fantastic.
That's fine. I mean, like, I feel like in terms of, like, big roles, he doesn't have, like, a huge Rolodex of roles to go to, but also he was in a lot of different stuff, and the stuff he was in, he normally knocked it out of the park. Um, and then his stand up is just next level.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of, but off the top of my head, I guess, he was in like Patch Adams, he was in Hook, Dead Poets
Wait,
Society, Good Will
I've
Hunting.
never seen Dead Poets Society.
You would really enjoy it.
I need to watch that one. Like I've never seen Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, Good Morning Vietnam is good. Did you ever watch Hook as a kid growing up with him and Dustin
Yeah,
Hoffman?
yeah. Hook was
People
great.
hate people hate on that movie. I gotta make a video about that. That movie is so fun. Like Julia
Yeah,
Roberts, like Dustin Hoff, like everyone just seems to be having a great time. Like it's just like a good story. Like the kid that plays Rufio, he's really cool. He just died, I think, recently. But it's a fun movie that gets just like hated on for no reason. I don't know.
yeah. And like I think you saw mine the other day where I made a comment about Flubber. Like I feel like no one remembers that movie.
Flubber, yeah, yeah. That was I had that on VHS back in the day. I would always watch it as a kid. Just like a fun movie. Like just lets his personality just like be what it is. So
Dude,
I
I
like
felt
that
so
movie.
bad a few weeks ago because we asked my wife's like younger cousin, who I think is 18. She didn't know what a VHS was.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like I don't blame. Like it would be easy to not know.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's
And
kind of
that's
crazy though. 'Cause I think VHSs were around longer than DVDs.
yeah. With DVDs, kind of just came in that awkward time where like streaming in the grand scheme of things like came along relatively quickly after. So I feel like there were so many DVDs made, and now they're just kind of like all out there. Um,
Yeah, which
so
is
many
good for people that want like a hard media collection.
Yeah, and actually, I have a good amount of stuff at, like, still at home, like, my parents' house that I kinda wanna go get and, like, maybe show some of it. I feel like people like that, and it's kind of fun. I just haven't made the time to go back and get it, but, I might do that soon.
Yeah. My wife has a case literally 4 feet from me that's just full of like all the childhood like VHSs. Just
Yeah,
like all
that's so sweet.
classic Disney and everything.
Nice. It's really fun.
Yeah. So my number 8 is Tenet,
Okay.
which is probably the biggest difference in our lists.
Yeah, but it's realistically, it's only a few spots, like 3 or 4 spots, so
Yeah. No, it's not far off at all. But I don't know. I really enjoyed like a lot about this movie.
okay.
Like this, this is one of my favorite Robert Pattinson performances. Maybe my third, honestly, because it would probably go Batman, Lighthouse, this.
He's, I think he's maybe my favorite thing about this movie.
I get that.
Because I also feel like okay about his character just being super like vague and just kind of mysterious. Like I like I like him a lot here too.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed John David Washington in this role. Um, and I just really enjoyed the concept of like overlapping time, like seeing them at the airport, and you like find out that they fought each other in the beginning
Yeah.
actually, and they just didn't realize it because of disguises. And I swear, every time I rewatch this movie, I completely forget that Aaron Taylor Johnson is in it.
Yeah, who's his character?
I think he's like not like a side character, but he comes in later in the movie when they're like kind of preparing for the big end battle, and he's like one of the like
Okay.
soldiers, kind of like giving the speech or like the plan.
Okay, yeah.
I think I think he's like one of the leaders of Blue Team or Red Team.
Got
It's
you.
one of the two, but he's one of the leaders of one of them.
I really hope that the Craven movie next year. I hope that's good. Craven the
I
Hunter.
hope it is too.
Like it
I'm
could
I'm a
be.
little worried about it.
It definitely could be really bad, but like he's such a cool character. I hope they make it cool. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and then speaking of Aaron Taylor Johnson, him and I'm trying to remember the other guy's name. Brian Tyree Henry were the highlights of Bullet Train.
Yeah. Yes. I would agree with that.
We need a spin-off of just those two characters.
Yeah, the movie was fun. Like it was a really good time. I feel like a good amount of people saw it, but like probably not enough still. It's
Yeah, absolutely. That might be one of my favorite theater experiences. Just because me and my boys were like bored on a weekend, we're like, "Hey, Bullet Train just came out. You want to just go check it out, see if it's worth a shit?" And had a blast with it.
yeah.
But anyway, we should probably
Yes.
back to Nolan.
Yep.
So I think from here on out, our lists are identical.
Really.
So I think so because my number 7 is
That's
Interstellar.
honestly wild. Okay.
I think my biggest complaint about this movie is not even the movie itself, but it's the Interstellar stands that just tell you about how when they're on a planet, every click you hear is like 1.4 days on Earth or whatever.
Yeah. There's people that I feel like consider this like an all time great like or they're the best movie ever made, things like that. And it's like when I see that, I'm just like, okay, I can't get behind that. Wait, so
Yeah.
I
And
hear
like
you.
this movie is probably the one that I haven't seen in the longest time, but I still remember a good amount about it. But I think my biggest grief with it when I did see it, when I remember, is just like the ending feels like pretty rushed. Like once he finally makes it back home.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like maybe it's like they told so much story and there was so much going on. They just like had to figure out a way to end it, so it just kind of got tacked on. But yeah, I agree with that take for sure.
Dude, I have two buddies who swear it's the greatest movie ever made. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And I
I
think it's
cannot
just
get behind.
yeah, it's one that I guess has that emotional impact that's heavier for some people, I guess, and that's those are the kind of things that can make people say that kind of stuff. Normally, it's like the emotionality of it, but I don't know, it's not quite that for me.
No, yeah, me either. Um, and then I mean, like, I do always love Nolan for like his real sets and everything. So like, I mean, the corn chase is obviously fantastic, and also another one where I always get surprised is I always forget that Timothy Chalamet is in this.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of actors. He finds a way to like stick a lot of people into his movies that you sometimes I feel like forget about. But yeah, it's really funny how he does that.
Yeah, I will say that might have the best surprise out of any of his movies, or like change of direction with Matt Damon being in it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it is good. It's not quite some of these others to me.
I've heard people explain that theater experience of seeing Matt Damon for the first time compares to when Captain America picked up Mjolnir for the first time, and I think
Yeah,
that's atrocious.
yeah.
It's a
Can't get
great
behind that.
surprise, but it's nowhere close.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Mjolnir had what 12 years of build up for us for that. Like,
Yeah, that was so sweet. Back when Marvel took their time and developed characters and did all that fun stuff.
a lot of people get mad at my take that the MCU should have ended with Endgame.
I don't know how you can really get mad, but I mean, obviously, people just always want more. Um, Kind of just the culture of today in terms of like entertainment. But yeah, it's I think they kind of got a little high on themselves and thought that just like whatever they made would just be consumed in like an equally like excited way, and it's just you can't just pump out average shit over and over again and just think
Yeah,
people are gonna like it. So we're
dude,
below that for me.
I hate Quantum Mania.
It's just like it looks like they should have taken another year to keep making the move. Like it doesn't seem like it's even ready to be
It
released. Like
Yeah, it's an incomplete complete story. The CGI is terrible. The storyline is bad, and just, there's not one good thing I can say about that movie. Besides, the best part of the movie is the beginning and the ending, where he's just walking, talking in his own head.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It feels like a movie that just had so much pressure behind it to get out, and that's what you get when you half-ass something. Like it's not going to be good.
yeah, like I feel like where the MCU is at with all the shows and movies they're just pumping out is it's turning into Star Wars fan base is like just super toxic among all their fans. If you like disagree with someone, they're gonna come for you in the comment. Like
Yeah,
when
well,
this
people are also just
podcast,
frustrated.
yeah,
Like
when
you
we
know what I mean?
first
Like
did this,
everyone's frustrated that stuff's bad, and then they just like take it out on each other. So
yeah, when we first started this podcast, my old co-host who had to walk away, him and I did an MCU ranking, and I like posted some of the video like clips like I did for ours on our page. You can even scroll down. I don't have a lot on that page yet. And there's this girl in the comments like calling us bigots like over and over. Like and I was like, that's just
yeah, it's like
we
unfounded.
have a difference and you don't need to be that aggressive about it. Not that it affects me at all, but
Yeah, yeah, but just like stuff. There's no need to say like anything personal, like talking about movies. Like it's just not that deep. Like it's fun. As long as someone's not saying something like completely out of pocket, like it's not that deep, really.
it really is not. All right,
But yeah,
moving on. My number 6, I have Dunkirk.
okay,
Yeah,
great spot.
this might have some of the most beautiful like scenes out of any of Nolan's movies, though. Like the planes flying every time, it's so gorgeous.
Yeah,
I hear a lot of people shit on this movie because of Harry Styles, and like frankly, I think he did a fine job. Like,
people will just criticize like certain actors or like come after them for like the way they like interpret them or like how they feel about them personally and like ignore the actual performance, like good or bad. And it's just that's so frustrating. I feel like to see.
yeah, like you can just take it role by role.
Yeah,
Like I feel like more people should, but yeah, I thought he was genuinely pretty good in this.
yeah,
And I
I
thought even
agree.
with how little Killian talked, he put out in a fantastic performance, like I've already said.
Yeah,
But like just truly showing like how like kind of shell shocked he was from everything going on, the war, the crash, all of it.
yeah,
And like I think he impacted the beginning of this movie more than anyone else by showing how truly fearful he was of going back to the island with the dad and his son.
yeah. I also love
Um,
I love Kenneth Branagh too. He's like one of my favorite actors, and I like even though he's like briefly in this, I like him being there too. It's a big like presence.
yeah, which is something Nolan's doing more and more the farther he gets in his, you know, filmography. So just bring in big names for small roles.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, only thing I maybe would wish is maybe get a little more dialogue out of Tom Hardy,
yeah,
which I get he's by himself for like 85% of this movie, so it'd be
yeah,
hard. But I wish there would have just been a little more Hardy because I love him.
yeah. He's a really talented dude. I like him a lot, and he's so like charismatic. Like it would be nice to have him being able to speak and express a little more. You know?
Yeah, and I feel like the boat explosion is not like talked about enough when this movie is brought up because I think that's so magnificently done.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah. This
number
one.
5, Inception.
Yep.
I think
All right.
it's my wife's boss knows like how big of a movie nerd I am, and she texted me one day. She's like, "Hey, can you call me real quick?" Which like is a rare occurrence. Like I thought something was wrong, so I call her. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And she was like, "Hey, my boss wants to know when is it fake and when is it real in Inception." And I was like, and I don't know if you knew this. If he's in the dream, he has a wedding ring on,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's
then
nice, just like subtle detail to like again, like help the audience, like just throw them a little bone here. But
but yeah, and then
um,
Nolan also said if you see Michael Caine at all, it's real life.
yeah, yeah, I love Michael Caine. He's the best.
Yeah, he's so good. We don't have much longer with him, so we need to appreciate and show him love while we got him.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, I think one of my biggest like kind of critiques of this movie is like, they're like in the rooms and there's like the elevator and he won't let her go down to like the final
Yeah.
floor, or is it the
Yep.
highest floor? Either way.
I think it's the bottom. I think you were right.
Yeah, I also think it is. I think that gets a little too overhyped by like just the way the story goes. Like how hard he tries to keep her out of it, fights it over and over, and finally she gets down there, and it's just like kind of his wife that gets progressively angry, but like it wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, like the payoff wasn't quite equal to like the build up of like
Yeah,
that moment. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
fair.
to. But I mean, it's still top five in Nolan,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
then four Memento.
Okay.
Again, dude, I took a
It's
while
a
to
great
watch this.
list.
Yeah, yeah, yours too, man. I
Crazy.
also took a while to watch Memento, and it was funny because like every now and then I'll like scroll through my watch list and then green screen over it on TikTok and be like, "Here's my watch list," some notable ones. And I one of them like late last year, I want to say it was. I called out that I hadn't seen Memento, and like one of my good buddies texted me, and he was like, "Hey, Memento's not all that. Like, and then my wife, she got a bachelor's in psychology, and they made them watch this in one of their college classes, and she was like,
Wait,
I think the movie's bad.
really?
So yeah, I've heard a lot of negative things going into this movie, and I absolutely adored it the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
Um, my wife also said that Guy Pearce looks like a Walmart version Brad Pitt. I was like, that's fucked up, but that's accurate.
That's hilarious. That is accurate. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, which is funny because I really don't know how much else I've seen him in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. He's done a lot of like weird like B stuff. Um, he was in Iron Man 3. He plays
Yeah,
the like douchebag.
yeah, which Iron Man 3 is nothing to write home about.
I kind of like Iron Man 3, but we don't have to talk
I
about
don't
that.
hate it. It's not Iron Man 2, which is horrible, but
Yeah, I was just talking to someone who was saying how much they like Iron Man 2, and I was like, I don't think I've ever heard that take really before.
I
But
never have.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Guy Pearce's most notable ones is The King's Speech,
yeah, forgot he was in that.
Prometheus, the 2017 Alien movie, and The
Hmm.
Hurt Locker. That's a pretty solid one.
Yeah, he's not really like a big, I guess, like leading actor, which I mean, I guess I'm curious, like, what was the big role? Like, you would think he would get some big roles after this. He was in the Time Machine movie from 2002 and The Count of Monte Cristo from the same year,
Uh,
so I guess those were just kind of not great. So, but yeah, he carries this really well, I think.
I was gonna say I'm with you. Like, it's surprising he didn't get a lead role after like how well he did in this,
Yeah,
which is like one thing I love about Nolan too. Like, this you can say Batman, but I'm gonna like not say that just because he had prior material to write Batman off of. But like this, Interstellar, Tenet, and Oppenheimer, like I like how he can write a character to be on screen like the entire movie and you don't get bored and it doesn't really seem to lack a lot.
yeah, and that's not easy to do. And it's also a lot of stress on that actor, but I mean, they're all up to the task. So,
Yeah. Which is funny because, Guy Pearce, like we're saying, hasn't been in a lot of big stuff. So
yeah,
like he almost pulled a Tarantino and found like a smaller name for it.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
my number my number three, I got Dark Knight. I love this movie. Like we both said, it's hard to find something bad about it, but I do think in this new wave of film bro movies, it's getting slightly overhyped.
Um, why do you feel that way?
Just the way people talk about it. Like I've seen people give it a 10 out of 10, which like I don't hate, but I do think it has flaws. Like we were saying, like between Harvey and Rachel, I think all those scenes are a little lackluster. Um, but like I have it in my top five comic book movies, but I think both the Spider Verse movies are better than it. I think Infinity War is better than it.
I think the Robert Pattinson Batman is probably a better movie than The Dark Knight, personally. Um,
I don't hate the take.
I also think like the thing with The Dark Knight is like it's not really about like it's a Batman movie, but like it's a Joker. It's a it's a way to give us the Joker, and Batman is there. Like Christian Bale is good, but he's not like doing anything crazy as Batman. Robert Pattinson is
Yeah,
like it's a more interesting performance on his from his perspective, from Batman's perspective.
yeah, it definitely feels like it's a Heath Ledger led movie at a lot of points in this.
Yeah, and he was that good. And it's cool of Christian Bale to be able to like recognize that and kind of step back and like just let Heath. He when he talks about it, he talks about kind of just like being like this guy's doing something here. Like I'm gonna let
Yeah,
him do him and like just kind of be a part of it. Not that he's bad, but yeah, it's just it's not the best actual Batman performance. So you know,
yeah, I completely agree. Okay, while we're on that topic, who do you think is the best Batman, like performance wise, with Bruce Wayne and Batman combined?
I think it might be Michael Keaton.
Okay, I'm okay with that take. I think it's Affleck.
He like I don't dislike any of his takes on the character. I think he got stuck in a lot of like in some bad movies with some like bad scripts and like he was written weird. But like in terms of his performance, I do like it a lot, and I like Ben as an actor and
Yeah,
director.
and I think if he would have gotten like a standalone movie, there would be a lot more people on this wave.
Yeah, he deserved that. Um, I think it's a shame he.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But you could also make the argument that if he got that, we might not have gotten Pattinson.
Yeah,
So, and I love Pattinson.
yeah, same.
All right, my number two, which was my number one for a long time, The Prestige.
Sounds familiar. Love it.
Dude, I don't know why this movie is so low on other people's Nolan ranking. Like,
It only
I've
seems to
rarely
be.
seen it in the top five of people.
What you're saying? You never have?
I think I've only seen it in like one other person's list outside of yours and mine.
Okay,
Like out,
gotcha.
I think everywhere else like it falls around like the 7 to 8 spot for people.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know, like, what are the typical criticisms that this movie gets? Like, I feel like I'm not even really familiar. Like, I feel like some people feel like people think it's too long, or like it drags, or like it's not
There's people that
emotionally
say
heavy.
like, I've heard people say that like the Tesla parts are like like dragged out and everything.
I love
Like
that.
I don't think
Like,
they are, and they aren't even that long, really.
no, they're not, and it just makes it interesting. Like, it adds like some um, just another interesting element, some depth to the story. Like, I like that stuff. But
Yeah, and then one of the other things I really do like about this movie is for like I'd say a good 90% of it, it just goes in order. Like I like that it starts showing Hugh Jackman like drowning, and then like it goes to the court scene with Michael Caine, and then all of a sudden we go back in time and we get the full story.
yeah, yeah,
Like
and
that
like
grabbed my attention, which is obviously what it's meant to do, and it did well.
yeah. Yeah, and everyone is doing a good job in this. Like, it's all good performances. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably my favorite Hugh Jackman role right now. Now, also keeping that in mind, I haven't seen Logan.
Logan is Logan is like in my it's like an upper echelon all time movie for me. Like, I think it's that good. So I think yes, like again, it's so hard for me to put. I'd say like top 50, like something like it's easily in that. It's
I've
really
always
good.
seen people have it in the upper echelon of like comic book movies, like
It to
top
me,
three.
it's heavy. Like, it doesn't. It feels just like you don't feel like you're really watching a comic. You feel like you're watching like its own. It's in its own world. It's its own story. Like, it's its own thing. It has a very like specific tone. And I really like Mangold, the director, so much. Like, I really think he's really good. I just reviewed 310 to Yuma, which is Kristen
Oh yeah,
Bale and Russell Crowe, and
bro.
that was him too. Um, Also, I sometimes Scarlett Johansson I really like in The Prestige too. I think she does a good
I,
job.
I was just about to bring her up.
Yeah, and Michael
And
Caine. I mean,
I love the back and forth with ScarJo, between both magicians. Well, I guess you should
yeah,
say all three magicians. Which
yeah,
again, another great twist by Nolan. This one was a hair more predictable, maybe than some of his other twists, but
but it's still
also,
cool.
yeah, also it's still, it wasn't too predictable, and he also kind of gave you the tools to predict it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like that. People don't. I think sometimes miss it. Like part of what makes a good twist is like you have to give the audience enough throughout the movie to be able to like have the idea. Like if you just get beat over the head with something that like the director's just like, oh, like you had no idea, but it's just like, okay, like cool, like it's just not as interesting. I think it's cooler if it's in the back of your mind and then it's executed and you're like, oh, like I was thinking that, like you know what I mean,
Yeah.
without
See,
being
I like
obvious.
twists. I like twists like that, but then also like Arrival. I didn't see that twist coming at all because I was too focused on like figuring out how they're learning the alien language. As if I'm, Stephen Hawking,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
so I missed that twist, and like so that one caught me completely off guard, and I absolutely adored that movie and that
Yeah.
twist.
An example of I feel like an example of a bad twist is like The Village from M Night. I can't stand M Night really. But have you seen The Village?
I think I started it, but I don't know if I ever finished it. Really,
Okay, there's no need to finish it. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Basically, it's just like you think they're in like olden times, then it's like it was actually modern day, and it's like you think that the whole movie, and then it's just like, why did I watch this? Like, there's literally no point. It's just that's an example of the opposite, where it's so obvious. You're just like, this was so dumb. I don't know, but
it's
a
funny
lot
because
of good and bad twists.
M Night announced he's filming his next movie in Cincinnati. So
Really,
yeah,
do you know what it is?
not at all. I think it's said to start filming sometime next spring or summer here. And De Niro just filmed a movie here.
Huh?
I think it might have been. I don't know which De Niro movie it was, but I think it might have been part of that what looked like a stupid comedy that just came out, where like his son's getting married.
Okay,
I think it was part of that, and they were looking for extras, but like you had to be of Italian descent. So
gotcha.
I had some friends that applied to do it because I told them to, and one of my dad's friends got in. So he's an extra somewhere in whatever movie it is.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
Is
then my number one, Oppenheimer.
is it close for you at all, or like how do you feel it compares to The Prestige?
I think now, because I've seen Oppenheimer twice now, I think now it's a few legs above it. Um, but at first, when I first saw Oppenheimer, I still kept Prestige above it for a little bit
Okay.
until, because like I didn't want to do recency bias because like I came
Yeah.
out and like I loved it first watch. Um, and then so I kept it there for a little bit, played with it in my head, and then I saw Oppenheimer again. I was like, all right, it's going above it. Like that confirms it for me. Oh, dude, you see Logan Paul said that he walked out of the theater on this because it was just people talking.
Yeah, I made a video about that. Part of
Oh
me,
yeah, you did.
I was torn because I was just like, he definitely does this shit just to for idiots like me to be like, look at Logan. Like, it's free publicity. You know what I mean? Like, and that's
Yeah,
most likely the cause. But on the off chance that he actually just thinks he's smarter than everyone, it's just like he's like it's bad. Like, you're an idiot. Like, you're just an idiot. And the thing that bums me out is like there's a lot of kids that probably value his opinion, and it's like you might not believe that, but when you're putting it out there, all these dumbass kids are going to be like, oh, the movie's bad because like Logan Paul says it's bad. You know what I mean? Like you got
yeah.
you have responsibility when you have a platform like that, and you shouldn't just be saying whatever unless if you do actually believe it. I actually respect him more. But it was just
There's some
I don't
guys
know.
on Movie Talk that I think are like that we'll discuss later because I'm not going to call anyone out publicly, but I'll throw some names out there for you that I feel the same way about.
Yeah,
Um,
it's if you have a platform that's sizable enough, like you have responsibility to like say legitimate thoughts and like put actual thought behind them. Like just be aware of.
Which is why I worry about like, guys who get so big on movie talk that have like, contracts or agents to like certain companies. Like, because if you like talk bad on that company, like you could, be fined or sued if that's not in your contract to give your
Yeah,
honest opinion.
it seems like there shouldn't be any kind of like conflicting motivations or like interests if you're going to be talking about movies. Like it should just be your opinion, your thoughts, like straight up. That's all.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I mean, obviously, I don't know what their contracts and everything look
yeah,
like,
yeah,
but no, I think like why this movie stands out so much is one, I was beyond surprised that like the atom bomb was like maybe a little past the halfway point of this movie. Like I
were you
definitely thought that.
anticipating that being the kind of the ending?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And then
And
we
I
had
think
the
I
like,
appreciated that. Like it kind of like subverted your expectations. Like
but yeah, absolutely. And then also, it wasn't until like after that that you kind of realized that Stutz, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, was like the bad guy,
yeah,
or like one of the bad guys, I should say.
yeah. He was really like kind of like spinning his web the whole time and just kind of like playing everything. Did you have, I guess, one quick question? Did you have a favorite scene or like favorite moment from the movie that stood out to you?
That's such a tough question because like I genuinely love this movie and like almost everything about it. It might be the scene where he's like first addressing like everyone in that like bat or in that like gym, and he's like, this was for America, and everyone's roaring applause, but then he starts having like visions of people burning and like everything else.
That's to me that was like so far and away like my favorite part. I think that was so like that was like actually like emotionally impacting. Like, I feel like you really were able to like put yourself in his shoes. And like the way he used all the different sounds that were going on and then just like switching them into like different noises, like it was crazy. That was a wild scene. It was so good.
It was so well done, and
Yeah,
like that is one of the most like that'll be one of the most iconic scenes of the 21st century for a long time.
yeah,
I think, especially once this hits streaming and people watch it that way and it gets more legs. Like,
yeah,
but it's on path to break like some records for like highest grossing rated R movie.
yeah. Do you know what it's at?
Give me 2 seconds, I'll pull it up for you.
And like the fact that a movie that was like that long and dealing with that serious subject matter, it's at 855 million. So it's just behind Venom right now, which I guess Venom was R. So that it was Venom first all time in terms of rated R.
What do you mean first all time?
Like in terms of movies that were rated R, is Venom at the top right now in
No,
terms of box office?
Venom's not even top 10. Oh, comic books?
No, just in terms of like rated R box office.
No, it's not even top 10.
Okay, gotcha.
So number one, Oppenheimer is now officially in the number two spot with 855 million box office, nearing 856. But number one right now is Joker with
Okay.
1 billion, little over 1 billion.
Wait, so Venom wasn't rated R then?
Was it?
Was it PG-13? Because I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the same list and it doesn't have it either. Like, no, it was PG-13.
Oh shit.
They did it, I guess, just straight up so they would make more money, so that I guess like more kids could see it and stuff, or younger people. But
Probably. I
I,
mean, dude, any movie with an NC-17 rating is basically a ghost at the box
yeah,
office.
yeah,
I think the
I thought you
highest
were
rated
doing.
NC-17 might be Goodfellas, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. I feel like yeah, you don't see too many of those these days.
Yeah, and if you do, like they're usually straight to streaming now.
Yeah. Were you a fan of Joker? Like, what were your general thoughts on that?
I enjoyed it a lot. I think it gets a little overhyped sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how excited I am for number two. That's going to be a musical with Gaga as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, low key. I'm honestly, I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's gonna be really, really weird. Um, and I think she can act. Like, I like watching her act.
I do too. I
Um,
just watched The Star Is Born for the first time, and
yeah,
it was great.
she's insane in that. Yeah, so I have high hopes for it. I think it'll depend on like the writing and the script, but like the acting talent is insane. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
I completely agree. There's sometimes I just wish movies could be standalone movies anymore.
Well, there's always more money to be made. There's another billion sitting out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's what Marvel's doing, and everyone's kind of hating them right now.
Yeah,
Like
then you end up with
game, like Wakanda Forever was good. Guardians 3, I never finished it,
Guardians
but
3. I
looked
loved.
successful. But like other than that, like there's no real standouts.
Yeah, yeah. They need some wins soon. Um, I guess the next one is the Mar. Is it the Marvels or
Yeah, which got delayed.
yeah? So
Wait, I don't know. Feige said in an interview that they're gonna like step away from quality and go or from quantity and go back to quality. We'll
which is what
see.
they should do.
Well, they fired their head of CGI.
I
Obviously, they
mean,
have a better title than what I just said, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, deservedly so. There's been some rough, like with the amount of money that goes into these movies. There's no excuse for them to just look poor. If anything, that should be the standout.
I will go on a half an hour long tangent about Quantum Mania.
Yeah, yeah. It shouldn't have been out when it was, but
No, not at all. I think The Eternals gets a little overhated.
I've been saying that that movie is cool. Like I like that movie. I think maybe it's that everyone wants there to be some awesome like tie-in with the rest of the universe, and that doesn't really have it. But like as a standalone movie, it's a cool movie. Like I don't
Yeah,
know. I
well,
don't.
it's cool for that regard, but like it's also just an almost impossible mission to make a 2 hour long movie and introduce nine main characters.
Yeah, yeah. Like some characters are not going to be developed as you want them to be, but I liked it. I liked the team. I liked some of the dynamics. Like I thought it was a cool movie. I
Yeah,
think it was just one that became like trendy to say was terrible. Like, um, but it's not that bad.
yeah. All right. Well, before we sign off, we're adding in a new segment for a movie recommendation for every episode. So, what do you got for us?
So my recommendation is going to be. I was kind of trying to think about something that is in the same vein as a lot of stuff that Nolan has done. So I'm going with Looper. It's a sci-fi movie from 2012. I think it's one that a lot of people have seen. It's Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I have not
Um,
seen it.
if you haven't seen it, you will like it. Basically, just kind of takes place in the future. It's directed by Ryan Johnson, who you might like or not like, but I'm a fan of him. Um,
What I've seen,
but
I remember liking.
what'd you say?
What I've seen, I remember liking.
Yeah. But basically, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is an assassin that gets basically sent back in time to kill people to kind of change the current timeline. And there's kind of a twist that goes along. I'm not going to spoil it, but Bruce Willis plays a big role in this as well. It's just kind of about like time and managing timelines and how things can get thrown off. And it's a really really cool sci-fi movie. Um, I think you would like it, or any fan of Nolan.
It's got some pretty good rankings on Letterbox.
Yeah, it's solid. It's not the best, but it's really really it's worth watching.
Okay. Now I did the polar opposite of you, and I went just complete different direction of Nolan.
Okay.
So my recommendation, I believe it's still on Netflix, but if not, you can rent it on YouTube. Is A Silent Voice.
Okay.
Have you seen this one yet?
Have not.
So it's Japanese like style animation.
Okay.
And you can go verify this if you want on my letterbox, but I think my only review for this movie is: have you ever wanted to curl up and cry with a bottle of wine in your hand? And this movie will make you want to do that.
Okay. What's
It's
like very brief story like synopsis?
so it starts off with like, I want to say they're seventh graders, maybe a little younger. Um, and there's this new girl that comes into their class, and she has cochlear ear implants. Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
So she has those in, and like a bunch of guys in the class are bullying her for being deaf. And at one point, one of the guys rips out her implant. Um, but she like tries to forgive him and be friends with him. Like still, like she's like just this very sweet soul. Well, then it flashes forward. I want to say to like probably their senior year of high school, and it kind of like shows that his life has kind of just gone downhill since that moment, and like he's just kind of sad, and they like cross paths again, and he's like trying to be friends with her. Um, so very good, but horrifically sad.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds
But
like really compelling.
I think I gave this a 9.8 out of 10, if I remember correctly.
Damn. I'll give it a look.
Yeah, absolutely worth it.
Nice, man.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll be getting more of these out soon, so it'll be weekly or bi-weekly.
Yep. Absolutely good stuff, man.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yep.
As
Take
always.
care.
Hey, you as well, brother.